Earlier this week, tensions around the Red Sea rose when 3 commercial ships were attacked by ballistic missiles. They were launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels, a Zaidi Shiite movement that has been fighting the country's Sunni-majority government since 2004. Since the war between Israel and Hamas started, the Houthis, sitting nearly 2,500 kilometers away, have become increasingly active, attacking ships passing this important shipping lane. So, who are the Houthis? What are they doing in the Red Sea? What stake do they have in the Israel-Hamas war? Who is providing them with missiles and high-tech military gear? Could their attacks end up triggering a larger war? And if yes, why hasn't the US retaliated yet? Hello and welcome. I am Molly Gambhir and you are watching Gravitas Plus. Last month, a dramatic video of Houthis hijacking a ship went viral. It looked like it was from a video game. The sophisticatedly shot video claimed to show armed men dropping from a helicopter and taking control of an Israeli-linked cargo ship. The name of the ship is Galaxy Leader. The Yemen-based group released a statement. They said that they have vowed to prevent any Israeli vessels from passing their coast. Now, the location of this attack is significant. The hijacking took place just north of the strategic choke point of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It is a 20-mile wide channel. It separates Africa from the Arabian Peninsula. Around 17,000 ships pass through the narrow waterway. They contribute to nearly 10% of the global trade. Any ship that passes through the Suez Canal and heads south to the Indian Ocean has to pass through this strait. It is close to the coast of Yemen, a country run by the Houthis. Since the Israel-Hamas war broke out, multiple commercial ships operating well within the international waters have been attacked by the Houthis. These attacks have involved a combination of explosive drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles. Just last week, the US Navy destroyer USS Carney, which was operating in the vicinity, managed to shoot down 3 drones shot by the Houthis. This prompted the Pentagon to describe these attacks as a direct threat to international commerce as well as maritime security. Now, you may be asking how this episode, which took place well over 1,000 miles away from the Gaza Strip, has the potential to dramatically escalate the war between Israel and Hamas. Well, the answer lies in understanding the history of this group. Most of Yemen, including its Red Sea coast, has been under control of this militia since they overthrew a legitimate elected Yemeni government. In 2014, they took control over the Yemeni capital, Sana'a. The group was founded in the 1990s. They are an Islamist political and armed movement that emerged from Sadr in northern Yemen. The movement was called Houthis because its founder is from the Houthi tribe. The Houthis are a large clan originating from Yemen's Sadr province. They practice the Zaidi form of Shiaism. Zaidis make up around 35% of the country's population. A Zaidi imamate ruled Yemen for 1,000 years before being overthrown in 1962. And since then, the Zaidis, who have been stripped of their political power, have struggled to restore their authority and influence in Yemen. In the 1980s, the Houthi clan began a movement to revive Zaidi traditions. They felt threatened by state-funded Salafist preachers who established a base in Houthi areas. Not all Zaidis, however, align with the Houthi movement. The Houthi insurgents clashed with Yemen's government for more than a decade. After 2011, the Houthi movement expanded beyond its Zaidi roots and became a wider movement opposed to the central government. The insurgents refer to themselves as Ansarullah, or Party of God. In November 2009, the Houthis crossed into Saudi Arabia amid their rebellion against Yemen's central government. For the first time, the Saudi army deployed abroad without an ally. The Saudis launched airstrikes against the rebels and engaged in ground skirmishes. Over 130 Saudis died. The next major round of fighting began in 2015. In March that year, the Houthis ordered a general mobilization to drive into southern Yemen, which was under loyalist control of the forces under the erstwhile president of Yemen, Abdurrabbu Mansur Hadi. Fighting began and key loyalist centers such as Lahij began to fall. In a few days, the Houthis had reached the outskirts of Aden, where Houthis' government had their seat of power. The same day, Houthi fled the country. At the same time, a coalition was taking shape to oust the Houthis and restore the former government. It was led by Saudi Arabia, which launched military operations against the Houthis. Despite no evidence to the contrary, it has been noticed that the Houthis have been funded and armed by the Iranian government. As such, the Yemeni civil war is considered an extension of the Iran-Saudi Arabia proxy conflict. In January 2021, the former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced his intention of declaring the Houthi movement in Yemen as a foreign terrorist organization. Under the plan, the three leaders of the Houthis, known as Ansarullah, were to be listed as specially designated global terrorists. However, there was fear among the diplomats and the aid groups that the move would cause issues in the peace talks and in delivering aid to the Yemen crisis. The US provided intelligence and logistical support for the Saudi-led campaign. In fact, when Joe Biden came to office as the US president, he froze arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. By February 2021, Biden officially cut American support for the Saudi coalition. Just this week, the US announced sanctions targeting an Iran-backed network for allegedly providing funding for the Houthis via Iranian commodity sales. Years of bloody, inconclusive fighting against the Saudi-led coalition settled into a stalemated proxy war. A proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This has caused widespread hunger and misery in Yemen, making it the Arab world's poorest country. The war has killed over 150,000 people, creating one of the world's worst humanitarian disasters. A ceasefire that technically ended more than a year ago is still largely being honored. Saudi Arabia and the rebels have done some prisoner swaps, and a Houthi delegation was invited to high-level peace talks in Riyadh in September as part of a wider détente the kingdom has reached with Iran. While they report positive results, there is still no permanent peace. Which brings us to today. Houthis' attacks on ships, they have sporadically targeted ships over time, but the attacks have increased since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. These attacks have specially spiked after an explosion at a Gaza hospital on the 17th of October, which killed and injured many. Houthi leaders say Israel is their target. They say they want to prevent Israeli ships from navigating the Red Sea until the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip stops. In short, they are attacking these ships to show their solidarity with the Palestinians. One of the commercial ships they attacked last week has an Israeli link, but the other ships do not have any clear link to Israel. So what is the US position now? While the US has carried out airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, they have not yet retaliated against the Houthis. American news outlets say the reluctance comes from broader concerns about the shaky ceasefire currently in Yemen. The Biden administration wants to preserve this truce no matter how fragile it is. Washington believes that taking action could potentially open up another front in the war. Still, US officials say that military action is an option. It is not off the table. They draw clear distinction between Iraq and Syria bombings and the Houthi attacks. And that is certainly no comfort to the sailors on these ships. This week, the US said it was talking with friends about using a naval task force to escort commercial ships in the Red Sea. About 38 countries participate in a similar task force in the region, largely to battle piracy off the coast of Somalia. The idea is still being discussed. Meanwhile, the Biden administration says that they are doing all that they can so that the Israel-Hamas war does not blow up into a wider regional conflict. So far, America's strikes on the Iranian-backed groups in Iraq and Syria have not escalated the Israel-Hamas war. Hence, it's not clear if targeted strikes against the Houthis would cross the red line, triggering a wider war.